Welcome to TV Boys. You should have put like a black and white filter over our faces.
Oh, I also should have changed the fucking episode info. What up, everyone? Welcome to the, I guess technically second, all access to everyone public episode of TV Boys. We are talking about a very popular show this time, and we thought, why not take this opportunity to maybe hook some of you guys in. Maybe you don't know what we do here at TV Boys. Maybe you're not aware. You never had the pleasure of sampling what we have to offer. Guys, we bring each other an episode of TV each week, and we rotate each week. So this week was my week, and because it lined right up with the release of Marvel Studios' WandaVision on Disney+, I thought, why not talk about the show that I am definitely going to want to be talking about. So, guys, WandaVision, what'd you think of the pilot?
Well, to go first, I guess I'll go first because for me, when they were announcing all of these like Disney Plus shows of Marvel shows, and I saw WandaVision, I was like, all right, guys, come on, like who wants to see a whole series about Wanda and Vision? They were like the least interesting characters in these Avenger movies. Like, you really want to see a whole show of them? And then, lo and behold, this ends up being like probably my favorite thing that the MCU has ever done.
I'm kind of with you on that assessment, by the way, as far as rankings go.
I mean, the thing I think I knew going in was Wanda was a character who I've covertly grown to love in the movies. I think she had the best scene in Endgame. And overall, I know Tom King's Vision series is so great. I like Wanda a lot as a character in the comics. I know that there will be some characters coming up who I'm a big fan of in the comics. So I was very much looking forward to this series. And I would say 79% of it delivered in this pilot.
So where's that extra 21%?
Is it like the last half of the second episode? Because like...
No, I think really, because I want to say, I think a lot of the complaints for this come from people, especially after The Mandalorian and seeing stuff for other shows like Falcon and the Winter Soldier or whatnot, really want action, spectacle, the thing that Marvel generally gives, and were confused when, one, they got a comedy, and two, it was this weird and wacky genre throwback thing. I think for me, I was actually hoping it would be actually funny and not just like bad funny to the point that it's torturous. Like, I feel like that's kind of
I
maybe
disagree.
what the story's
I think they
going
hit the
for.
level of humor really well, because I don't like watch a lot of those old shows and kind of crack up. I feel like there are the exceptional shows from that time that really do get you, but I feel like for the most part, like that's what those shows were. That's like the level they were.
No, I absolutely agree with that. I think I was hoping that it would maybe rise above that a little while staying in tone. So then it was like, oh, it's hokey jokes like they would tell back then, but like, oh, there's like a few that I actually would laugh at and actually find charming. And I think in this it really is almost like, obviously they are in some kind of prison. Who is behind all this? One big mystery. But I feel like whatever part of the torture people are undergoing, they're making it very clear that this bad humor and this horrible laugh track is part of it.
Well, here's the thing. I'm not one for like it's trying to be like that, so it's okay that it's bad. Like, I'm not that type of person. I am also not the type of person who likes humor in all these Marvel movies. Like, I think that's usually the worst part of these movies for me. But I think that for here, I do think that it worked for me because a lot of the things that I hate about like the standard Marvel formula for comedy is just like there's a lot of like improvisational bumbling and like flubbing over words, and that's like what's supposed to be funny is just like watching them stammer. Whereas like with this, it's so like rigidly scripted and like there's such a button at it that like I feel like the punchlines and the jokes like when they hit like they do hit, but also because there's such like a wink and a nod to them that also kind of makes it endearing, kind of makes it humorous. And I do think that there are some like occasionally funny things, like the part where Vision's like where he starts like, well, I don't eat food, like
I think Vision does well as the
Yeah.
the comic relief there. I love when he's trying to figure out what the fuck he does, like
Yeah.
at the accounting firm when
Yeah.
they're like, we make these spreadsheets, like what the fuck are you talking
Yeah,
about?
and I also-
what do you do? What does anyone do?
And the thing I also do like about the style of comedy is that it is kind of the way that it is kind of structured, like with like that banter formula, that the way that it would be in the 50s. It's not like the way that it is in like Marvel movies,
Yeah.
like modern currently. So
I mean, I think in general, I was just really blown away by like how committed Marvel was to making 2 episodes of TV that like very much emulate 2 very specific time periods in TV.
Right, and 2 very specific shows. And I especially appreciate Elizabeth Olsen, just her performance and her energy in both of these
She's fucking
episodes.
wonderful in
And
this.
she
Yeah.
has like the
She's
mannerisms
amazing.
and the cadence that like women in those style shows spoke with, and she doesn't have to speak with this like horrible European like amalgamation accent that she
I
has
hope
as this
this-
character.
if I hope we get one thing from this show, it's that we ditch the accent.
We ditched
That Wanda
Sokovia,
doesn't
and it's
have
just
an accent.
Latveria.
Well, it's going to become Latveria, I'm sure, but I just want Wanda to stop with the accent. I
Oh
want
yeah, I mean it's
Elizabeth Olsen to do her regular voice.
Civil War
This
was
is a
the
good
most
voice.
ridiculous movie in just that, like in every other line, fucking she chose a new accent. Like it was crazy. Like there was no commitment to it at
Yeah.
all. She clearly doesn't enjoy doing it. And so yeah, here where she's in that perfect American family, we don't deal with that shit. It works
Right.
really, really well.
I do like how the explanation for everything weird with her was just, my wife's European.
Yeah, that is fun, and that is like the weird,
Yeah.
like xenophobic '50s stuff.
Like,
that-
oh,
that
you're
kinda
European, how exotic! Like when the neighbors.
Breakfast for dinner, oh my.
Yeah, you know what's funny though? The show also made Vision an endearing character to me, because in a lot of these movies, like he's kind of cool, like when he shows up in Age of Ultron, but like I feel like for most of the series, he's just kind of like this very like still robotic, charismaless, like robot thing. And then in this, like, especially because he's able to like just actually be Paul Bettany, like he's able to be more likable and comedic and like lighthearted, and I find that. But then when he does become Vision, it's like you almost see it like he turns right back into like being a very like emotionless, cold robot.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're drawing more on the dichotomy of him in this than they were given the opportunity to in earlier things. I've always really liked Paul Bettany as Vision. And every time he appears, I'm always glad. Like, I'm always like, oh, cool, Vision this and this. Like, I'm never like when War Machine shows up, I'm like, fucking great. Who fucking cares? Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
But when
that's
Vision
how I
shows
felt.
up, I'm like, fucking.
Nah,
stoked.
that's kind of how I felt
Yeah,
about
Vision's
Vision.
kind of like
post-
the mascot for the Avengers.
That's always how I felt about Vision post Age of Ultron.
Wow. All right. Different strokes for big dumb idiots. So we are going to focus mostly on the pilot. So let's talk about like the moment where reality starts breaking a bit at the dinner scene. And we start to get these hints that, not all is well in this world.
Yeah, see, because here's the thing. I know that this show is eventually going to reveal that this is like some sort of illusion or something. And I'm like, I really don't want it to get there. Like, I don't want this to have any sort of like larger connection to Marvel. I would be fine with just a one season of a 50s sitcom. Like, I'd want it to be just that. Like, even like the small hints of like things turning to color and like things like, oh, I'm like, oh, it's gonna be some sort of like Hydra or some bullshit that I'm not gonna care about. Like,
It's stuff I'm positive you never like. We haven't gotten into yet. Like, this seems like it's going to be introducing a lot of shit.
Yeah, but
into-
there's going to be some old shit too, but that old shit won't matter quite as much
No,
compared
no,
to
yeah.
the new shit this is going to introduce, namely the next Spider-Man movie and the second Doctor Strange movie,
Yeah,
which
I
are
mean,
sequels to this.
This is the lead up to those in particular, and I guess Falcon and Winter Soldier will be too, to an extent, but it seems like those movies will deal more directly with the fallout of this show. And they've more or less not confirmed that, but very strongly hinted towards it. I'm stoked for whatever Sam Raimi's going to do with Doctor Strange 2, but do you think we're going to feel satisfied by the end of the series, or do you think we're just going to be left on like a little cock tease for whatever they're going to do in the movie?
I think we're going to be left very satisfied by the end of this series, but then on a big cliffhanger that's going to make sure that we go see Spider-Man 2 and Doctor Strange
in theaters.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like if this is gonna be like a hint towards things in the future and like what and like, you know, setting up things, that is I'm going to be very dissatisfied with a lot, because that's my issue with like these Marvel MCU Disney Plus series being connected to the movies is like, I would be totally fine if like they just wanted to have this be a standalone thing, because that's the thing I feel like we don't get with like this series anymore, is that like everything has to be so super connected. And I thought if they were just gonna do this one-off thing, this WandaVision 50s sitcom, and it's like a one season thing as like a, you know, a thing that's disconnected from the MCU and a thing you couldn't do in a movie. Like this is, I saw like some TikToks of like some guy scrolling through the episode on Disney Plus. He's like, they really made the whole thing like this.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what I mean. Like I felt the same way, but like in a positive version, where I was like, they made the whole thing like this. Like I thought we were gonna like be getting like those shots of like Monica Rambeau shooting through space for some reason, and like I thought it was gonna be so much more heavy-handed in these first two episodes.
No.
And who knows, you know, in like 5 hours the fucking next one will come out and we could have all of our illusions
next
of the
one
show shattered.
I've been told is when shit gets crazy.
I'm
kind of worried. Like I kind of
even
if the rest of the series,
in a Lewis good way and a Mike bad way.
Yeah. If the rest of the series like goes that direction, I'm like, all right, at least I'll still have like these first two episodes, which are just like such like this perfect like cinematic experiment. And I've seen like people throwing around David Lynch's name with this, and I'm like, all right, with that we need to stop, just because
it's black and white. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Well, because it's 50s wholesome hokey dokey doo, and then it's like, but secretly there's something sinister afoot.
I mean, like there's like the moments where like they seem to be like aware of the presence of like some other entity like with them, but like
right.
I like that stuff enough. I do hope that like we're not spending the entire series doing that though. Like, because I know each episode we're moving through time, right? So like the next episode is like a 70s sitcom, and it will probably go so on and so forth for a while.
Right.
And I hope it doesn't just keep giving us like the same steady, like very minimal drip feed of information. Like if it's going to drop shit on us, like drop shit on us, and then like let us like go and enjoy shit.
So is every episode going to be like parodying a different style of TV show? Oh, all right. Now I'm a little...
No, like it's going to be a Full House episode, and this is going to be a Brady Bunch episode tomorrow.
I think they're doing like a Malcolm in the Middle episode, which is
I wish there was an episode that they were doing, like, I wish they were changing it up, like, okay, one episode is Bewitched, but then one episode is like Star Trek, and then one episode is like Law and Order, and then like if it was different genres of TV shows.
I like clearly like this is about like them starting their family, like, you know, I know you're very excited about Speed and Wiccan showing up, and the second episode kind of ends with a big hint towards that if you haven't seen it. So it makes sense to me that they're sticking with these like family sitcoms to throw them on. You know what I mean? Like as
no,
far
I
as
know,
the style goes.
It makes sense, but it's not. You know, there's what makes sense, and then what I want.
Do you think by like the time we get to like the Malcolm in the Middle episodes, like we're gonna have like Speed and Wiccan like as
they're going to be teenagers by the time this is over? I am convinced that we're gonna see
so fucking
like because there's that whole Halloween trick or treating episode. I'm convinced they're going to be kids, and they're going to take them out trick or treating, and then like they'll get lost, and Wanda and Vision have to find them and risk using their powers and whatever.
I'm all about that. I sincerely hope that's where it goes. And then I hope we get maybe like a season, instead of doing a season 2 that's WandaVision, we just get Vision and it follows that fucking fantastic book.
I mean, do we want to get into prediction? You and I get into nerdy predictions for the show?
You know what? Because we have our TV Boys rule where we can't.
Yeah, I was thinking,
we can't go over the length of the episode we're covering. And we're already on 15 minutes, so we should probably not go down that rabbit hole. Cut Mike out of the hole.
Although we could say we're doing 2 episodes, and therefore
Well, yeah, 'cause
Give ourselves a real hour.
I mean, yeah, honestly, we can because if we're kind of covering the first 2 episodes, I don't mind talking a little longer. But...
Okay, sure. Let's get.
We're
into
gonna
it.
break the solid rule of just 30 minutes for WandaVision.
Yeah,
We'll go
especially
into
because
it.
this is a new show. Like,
we're also from this point. We're
Yeah.
probably going to talk spoilers from episode 2. So if you haven't seen all of it yet,
Yeah.
up until then, I would recommend tuning out.
So, I guess. All right, we're letting everyone tune out. My big thing is everyone except Wanda is going to be dead by the end of this, because she goes crazy, and she goes crazy because she loses Vision and her kids again.
Okay, so do you think we're leading to like House of M, like for real? Like,
No, yeah, she is going. The whole thing that they've set up with Doctor Strange is this ends with tragedy for her, and she rips open the multiverse.
do we think this
And
is
that's how we get
mutants
all
happen?
these Spider-Men and whatever. It could be, or it could be at least how their powers are made or something. I mean, I think the big thing is, if you are familiar with the comics or not, Wanda and Quicksilver are the children of Magneto from the X-Men. So if they were to retcon that in some way, I don't know how they would do that if they want to do that, but
I'm sure like the least of their concerns in like incorporating X-Men into the Marvel Cinematic Universe is like getting the familial relationship between Scarlet Witch and Magneto, right? They could totally like not take advantage of that aspect of the story and everything will still pretty much work.
I mean, they couldn't, and it would all still work. But I think that's an interesting part that they would be wasting a character to not do, because ultimately, I think her relationship with Magneto and, Magneto's relationship with Doom and her relationship with Doom and the Young Avengers relationship with her and things like it all. I mean, Marvel, again, is also 70 years of nonsense. So
right, and I think the MCU has
we
done
can't
a
expect
lot
it all.
to very specifically like Captain America: Civil War was very specifically named after the Civil War storyline, and while it was
Right.
very true to it in the spirit of what that book was, it is nothing. Like they don't even come close to adapting that storyline. It is very much its own
Right.
thing.
But there's also certain things where it's like Gamora is Thanos' daughter. Well, you don't just not make Gamora Thanos' daughter.
Right,
You
but I mean,
explore their
Thanos and
relationship.
Gamora, for the sake of this continuity, have always existed in the same universe. I just mean that, like, for the fact, like, if we didn't already just give her her own show, to introduce that concept now might be a little bit strange. But also, I'm down. Like, I'm fucking, like, I think go for it, like, make it. But I can see them being like, this might be like a big sell to
It could
the
be, but
general
I could also just see them doing the thing of like X-Men Evolution, where it's like mutants have always only been on the DL and other mutants have only ever known about other mutants, and then if they all get exposed and trouble starts.
I feel like the only way to make that work is if we were doing like some more like prequel movies, like movies that took place like like in like the 80s and 60s, and we can see kind of like what mutant history was like under
I mean, honestly, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, like, we could do, like, that, what was, I think, Remender's run on X-Men recently was, like, when they did the time travel stuff, and the original team of the X-Men was, like, time displaced, and
yeah,
then they ultimately got sent back, and, like, that's now the versions that are the adult ones in the present day. But what I'm trying to say is I can see them doing one movie with one cast set in the 60s, and then having it end with them winding up time displaced in the present, and maybe that, I don't know.
I would say maybe not the 60s, but
it's not the 60s, of course.
We
70s,
don't know what they're going to
80s.
bring in multiverse wise. I think, what are your predictions kind of for this series, Lewis? Like, where do you think it's kind of going? Where do you want it to go?
I mean, where I want it to go is this is all. I would really rather this not be like a connected to MCU thing, and this be more of like a personal like Vision and Scarlet Witch thing, and it's Scarlet Witch that's created this reality because she can't deal with the loss of Vision, and it's about her, accepting that the only thing that wasn't able to be fixed at the end of Endgame was the only person she loved died. Like I would really appreciate like a more personal story. What we're going to get is, I think, the big lead into Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, and probably like stuff like Nightmare, Mephisto. Like those would be my main guesses. Is that Either it's a
Yeah.
nightmare and it's going to lead directly into, really directly into Multiverse of Madness, or it's Mephisto, and that will be the big Avengers villain over the course of this
Coming
next
up.
phase or two. Yeah.
Yeah. And in the comics, I do know Mephisto is the one that takes away her children and drives her crazy, and is also the one that gives her the power to make children. So,
Right.
I'm leaning that way.
Do you want to talk about that moment where at the end of episode 2, which I really enjoyed, I thought was really handled interestingly, although very confusing, where Wanda is pregnant and she's pretty far along.
Well, it'd be more confusing if they did it the natural way, but at the same time, they did have sex in that episode, or so it's implied.
Yeah, that's very true.
She turned the 2 beds into 1.
Yeah. See, that's the stuff that I wish that like we could just keep with doing, like that stuff. Because like again, once we're at the end where it's like, oh, or we're like again like the hints of like things to come. I'm like I really think that like for this to be a show like this series, just have this be its style. Because I feel like that's the thing, we can't have like singular self-contained like fun comic book side stories anymore with this, and especially because this is going to be on Disney Plus. It's like, why can't this just be a thing on its own? Why does this have to?
Well, because this is like soon there's not going to be Marvel movies anymore. It's just going to be Marvel TV shows. That is a future that Disney, I think, definitely wants, and I think that's why we're getting things that are connecting, because Disney is, like, of all companies, has had their faith in the theater industry shaken severely by all of this. And I think that, like, even before that, they were like, you know, like, we need to diversify and we need to be able to jump ship. If that superhero fatigue ever sets in, then, you know, theaters are not going to be a like financially feasible place to release these things. So moving over to a streaming service where you can make weeks of content to drive subscriptions for the price of a movie, essentially, that is much more appealing to them, which is a boring answer for why does it have to relate to that universe. But you're right, and I was saying more or less the same thing. Like, I much prefer if this, like, didn't have to kick off the next few years of Marvel movies. I would much rather this just have been its own thing about that character, and they could both still show up later on, and that will be wonderful. But I would love it if this could focus on being a WandaVision story, which it has been for the first 2 episodes, but I'm really worried it's not going to be as we get deeper into it.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to all this sword nonsense and whatnot. I'm not looking forward to leaving TV World.
Yeah,
because that's the other thing. They're all setting up Captain Marvel now too. So
that's true. I think Captain Marvel 2 is going to be a big. I mean, I'm pretty amazed by the fact that the Miss Marvel introduced in the Miss Marvel TV show is going to be in Captain Marvel 2. Like, that is like a pretty brave commitment.
Yeah,
to
honestly,
this
is a type of like brand synergy, like cross contamination thing that I'm like, I feel like this is a step too far. Like, if you want to have the shows be their own thing, that's fine. But it would be like if The Mandalorian was connected to new Star Wars movies that you'd be seeing in theaters. It's like, one, how can you expect anybody to keep up with this much content? Like, even the movies themselves are a lot to ask people to, to keep up with. And then on top of that, shows that you need a subscription to watch. And then also the time to watch it. Because remember the Marvel Netflix shows? Like, even a lot of the most diehard Marvel supporters, they were not keeping up with every season of every one of those shows.
Yes, it's becoming more difficult to keep up with, but like they literally created a product that allows you to access all of that content. Like it is such like a direct like money move for them, because it's going to it will create like that's the typical synergy you would get from like if this was like a network show, or like it probably got with like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or the Netflix shows. But the fact that you can log on to Disney Plus and the entirety of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is right there, that is, every time you're releasing something, you're adding to the value so substantially of your platform.
Watching one Marvel movie is
the more it's worth.
Yeah, watching one Marvel movie is
does that
just
make you wanna
watching
blow your
2
fucking brains
episodes.
out?
No, yeah, but I was
of-
saying, like, even the Marvel Netflix
Any
shows,
other
like,
show.
you did not need to watch all of those in order to keep up with the movies. But even still, it was a lot to keep up with on its own. Even
But
if you have access to it,
We
it's still...
also don't know, like, how the movies are going to handle these things. Like,
No,
we don't-
exactly, because the Marvel Netflix, they kind of ignored them in the movies. Like, that
Right.
never... Even
That's
Agents
not going to
of
be the
S.H.I.E.L.D.
case with this, but we don't know, like,
Yeah,
how
exactly.
much they're going to, how far they're going to go to set these things that they're bringing in from the series up in the movies.
But if they're gonna go to it at the extent that you guys are theorizing, I think that is a fucking clusterfuck disaster idea move.
It could be the thing that sinks them. I don't think it will
Yeah,
be.
if the stuff that is being set up in the series is so integral to the movies, I'm like, that is a huge detriment. I feel like
It could be, or it could be like a really like huge moneymaker for Disney Plus. Like that, it could be like all they need.
But that's why I feel like these shows should just be
Because-
things on their own that if you want to watch. Because I know that a lot of normal Marvel fan people were not going to watch 2 episodes of a black and white sitcom, so they're turned off from watching this. And also
I
people...
don't know if that's true. I really don't. Like I think that like even if,
I
like,
think
the first,
people came in and whined and complained, and this isn't what they want. But I'm sure they'll keep coming
they
back
will keep
for
coming.
it.
Yeah,
And
they
then
will
they'll- yeah.
absolutely keep coming for it. Fucking
But
coming.
even-
And
Yeah,
then
but-
they'll get all the live color action pew pews they want, and then they'll be so happy for
Yeah.
Spider-Man 3 when they get 6 seconds of Tobey Maguire.
6 seconds of Tobey Maguire is my favorite indie film.
I've...
It's my favorite Jared Leto band.
6 seconds of Tobey Maguire. Ah, Lord. All right. So, Michael, you are the non-Marvel loving person. You viewed this without any expectations at all. If you had to rate it, right? Like
within...
rate it out of 5, and then I also want you to tell me, are you going to keep watching this show?
I'd say probably like a good solid 4 out of 5. Probably at the top of the MCU. Like as far as the movies goes, it's like Black Panther and Guardians of the Galaxy, which is like I feel like those movies were like these felt like new, like and Winter Soldier, like these felt like taking on new concepts for the Marvel series. And I feel like this is probably like the most ambitious idea stylistically that they've ever executed, and I wish that it could just exist as that. I will continue to watch until it becomes fucking comic book nonsense. Like, I will sit and watch them, like, we gotta, like, making dinner for my boss, or like, oh, we got the, like,
So you're down for a sitcom?
I would be fine with watching, like, 8 episodes of a 50s sitcom with these superhero characters. But yeah, if these become, like, super integral to the movies, and then I gotta care about, like, what... I am gonna be, like, so fucking bummed about it.
But what if they're all like that? Like, what if they're all, like, super, like, original, unique things that, like, they probably couldn't get away with in a movie? Like, is
No, yeah,
that
exactly.
not
I'm fine with
justifying
that.
its existence enough to, like, be like, okay, so they also tie into the movie?
I don't mind it being tied in. Like there's slight references, like, even in these, like, in the last episode. But I do think that, like, I really just so appreciated, like, the commitment to just being, like, that 50s sitcom down to the commercials.
Yeah.
Like, all that stuff is stuff, and like the sitcom formula, like the episode where it's like, oh, my boss is coming over for dinner, and you forgot our anniversary, and then I have my wacky
And
best,
I'm a witch.
and I have my wacky best friend Neva who comes over, and like
Catherine Hahn. We
Yeah,
have to talk
Catherine
about her.
Hahn.
She's amazing.
Yeah, I was talking about, like,
Agatha
oh, my
Harkness.
husband Ralph, and, like, she's really funny. I really like, because I think that, like, you could this idea could get very old if you play it out for too long, but I do feel like this is a strong enough, like, thing for a show. Like, you could get away with it making at least a season of this. Like, I'm fine with it if it stays as just being that. But I do think that if I have to, like, again, if this becomes, like, I don't know, if ever, like, this breaks this illusion of, like, the 50s sitcom formula, and then it's like we're dealing with, like,
I mean, the
things in
next
real time.
episode is not going to be a 50s sitcom.
Well, then
It'll be a 70s sitcom.
well, yeah. See, I don't know. I didn't really see that much of a distinction between the 50s and, like, the
And
second
the
episode.
60s?
Yeah,
well, it
'cause-
was subtle, but, like, 50s was, like, more, you know, like, I Love
She
Lucy,
was wearing
60s was-
pants in the second episode.
And they could push the beds together.
Yeah, and I noticed that, like,
Yeah.
at least from, like, the the way that like the blocking and the framing worked. They're not just like, you know, on this like kind of set stage
Yes.
like that.
They're on
But-
sets. It's a little bit more cinematic,
Yeah.
if you will.
Like I
But
said,
they
I'm willing
did
to see
film
where
in
this.
front of a live studio audience.
That's true.
Yeah,
Yep.
like I said, because I'm willing to continue to see where this goes, but like, there's no guarantee that like I'm going to
Yeah.
stay. And but you know, even if I don't end up liking where it goes, I'm like, these first 2 episodes are so strong that like
You'll
I'll
always
at
have
least
those.
yeah.
Yeah. Which opening did you like better? Which title sequence?
I like the first episode, the because I felt like that was like that 50s song. Like I felt like that was very like kind of reminiscent of like a 50s like intro. I like the animated one too.
I like the animated one. I think, you know, it was definitely going for Bewitched, and I think it struck Bewitched pretty like on the
Identically.
Yeah. I thought that was cute. I watched a lot of Bewitched growing up, like a stupid amount.
Yeah, I'm a
Like, my
big
mom was
Bewitched
obsessed.
fan, so that's why I like episode 2.
Sorry, if you're wondering like why I keep turning around, like looking at the ground, Prince Robot has
It's
been
that
just running
dog
amok
that's right
Look
next
at
to Mike.
in the
But
studio.
that
get
might
doggy
also be
on
the
TV
sign that
Boys.
we're getting a little close to it.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that point just about now where we gotta wrap up. But if you have final thoughts, now is go for it.
I guess, yeah, you asked Mike what his rating was, 4 out of 5. I would say the same thus far. You know, Falcon and Winter Soldier is the show that I was really holding out for, even though it looks the least different and interesting of
Yeah,
the
that's why I don't care
3.
about it.
It seems
Right.
the most significant to the actual story, but that could also be wrong. We'll see in the coming weeks with this.
We will see. But no, I enjoyed WandaVision, and I'm excited to see where
If
it
ever
goes.
we get a fucking CGI Mark Hamill in this show, then I'm done. I'm out.
You know, I very much expect that Ralph might end up being Ultron for some reason. And we'll just get Ultron in a sweater walking through the door one day.
I would love it if we get Spader and fucking Aaron Johnson from.
I'm very confident Quicksilver's going to come
If
back.
he's not in this, like, I'm going to lose my mind. I fucking love that character, and like, God, it's so much better than Fox's version of it with the fucking American Horror Story kid. I'm sorry, fucking Aaron Taylor Johnson was fucking robbed, and it's bullshit. and
I think
hate
at
it.
least in the Days of Future Past, that Quicksilver was at least better. But
I'm gonna fucking hurl this lighter at your dumb fucking face. I
it's a
disagree with you
time
so
in a bottle
aggressively.
scene. But
Fucking hate you so much.
it's really all he did. He had one scene. He shows up. He's good. But I agree that in the later movies, when he becomes like a character who goes along with the group, it's like, yeah, I don't care about him. Yeah. Anyway.
Anyways,
Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining this all-inclusive episode of TV Boys.
And
if you are not subscribed to our Patreon, patreon.com/armroulette, we do the show every week right after we do the live episodes over on, every other week. We are moving to a bi-weekly schedule now. I believe we've mentioned that already, but there it is again. We do it whenever we record the main episode. We go live for patrons only with TV Boys. We bring shows to each other each week. Next week is Mike's turn. Mike, what are you going to be bringing us?
so, yes, for mine, a couple other MCU alums. What was their names? The Russo brothers. Before they went into working on the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they were working on another sitcom called Community. And the episodes I'm picking are the season 2 two-parter finale, a fistful of paintballs, and for a few paintballs more.
I love me some Community. I'm excited. Do you watch Community, Jack?
oh yeah.
All right, we're going to have a good time. We're going to have a good time next week. Thank you guys so much for joining us again for TV Boys. If you're not on Patreon, go ahead and check it out. If you're a patron, thank you guys so much. We fucking love you. And we say it too much. It's probably weird. We're probably suffocating you. We're not going to perfect blue you. We're not.
They're gonna perfect blue us because we're the famous idols to them.
Yeah, we're real.
I just wish someone would perfect blow me.
Hey, listen,
I'm so
You-
lonely.
you have a loving boyfriend.
I do, and he's miles away.
Yes,
All right,
but-
well,
but
we're
he is
all
at
gonna
least
be
somewhere.
jerking off tonight. Goodbye.